Providing insights to help you grow your business, improve yourself, and add value to those around you. You're listening to the Success is a Choice podcast, where you get a peek into the lives of industry leaders as they share their stories with you.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Success is a Choice podcasting network. I'm your host, Jamy Bechler, and today we have a real special treat for you today, but we will get to that special treat in just a moment. I want to remind you that today's episode is made possible by the leadershipplaybook.com, the leadershipplaybook.com. Great teams have great teammates, and now you can get a 25% discount at the leadershipplaybook.com by using the coupon code CHOICE, as in success is a choice. So the leadershipplaybook.com. Today's guest, as I mentioned, very special guest. Many of you have seen him on ESPN. He's probably one of the most recognizable faces because he's involved in like every sport possible. Marty Smith. Marty Smith, since 2006, has been at ESPN, and he has covered just about every sport possible. So Marty, thank you for joining us. Welcome to the show.
Jamie, thank you, brother. I'm so grateful for the platform. I appreciate you having me on to chat about Sideline CEO, and hearing you say that I've been at ESPN since 2006 is just crazy. That's hard to believe it's been that long, but what a beautiful and blessed journey it's been for me. I'm so full of gratitude to be there and have the experiences and the fulfillment that it gives me. So thank you for having me, brother.
So when you're growing up, a little boy, I believe in Virginia, and you're playing sports, did you ever think that you would be on ESPN or have this kind of a platform or getting to shaking hands and kissing babies and hobnobbing with all these famous athletes?
Quite literally taking pictures with babies one weekend ago. I had the LSU Mississippi State game, and I was sitting at a restaurant bar having my dinner and took photographs with no less than 5 little toddlers. I think I got slobbered on, sobbed on, maybe even relieved on. I don't know, but it's part of the gig. And what an amazing blessing it is to be able to have a moment with people and share in their lives. But no, I never dreamed I'd be at ESPN. I never dreamed I'd be on TV. I'm a writer by trade. I studied print journalism in college at Radford University, and for the first several years of my career was a print reporter and columnist. So when ESPN called in 2006, quite literally out of nowhere, and asked me if I would be interested in joining their NASCAR broadcast team, I thought they had the wrong Marty. There's a phenomenal broadcaster named Marty Snyder, who's a great friend of mine and a world-class broadcaster. And I said to Jack Obringer, the gentleman from ESPN, who's still one of my great mentors there, who called me to begin the discussion. I said, hey, man, you got the wrong Marty. We get confused for one another all the time. Let me give you his number. And he just laughed and said, no. Yeah, everybody we talk to says you kind of have a really good pulse of what's going on in that garage area. So we'd love to bring you on as an insider. And Jamie, I knew nothing about TV. They taught me TV. And the path from there is beyond my wildest dreams.
So a lot of people know you, or you probably gained most recognition by being the NASCAR guy or an auto racing guy. And you mentioned they kind of were attracted to you because you knew your way around a garage there. Did you grow up as a race car fan? Were you somebody that got speeding tickets all the time? You were struggling to, you had a lead foot. I mean, what led you to the NASCAR scene?
Really interesting. Honestly, as a young boy, I loved NASCAR. My dad did too. He was a big Dale Earnhardt fan. And I loved Davey Allison, who drove the number 28 Texaco Haviland Ford. And because my dad loved the black 3-car, the black Chevy. I decided I'd love the black Ford. And so I was just in love with the sport as a kid. And then, unfortunately, Davey passed away in a tragic helicopter crash in Talladega, Alabama in April of 93. And I sort of just let the sport go at that point for a while. But as I was in college, I really got intrigued by the Dale Earnhardt-Jeff Gordon rivalry. Also, as a junior in college at Radford, I got a writing position for the Roanoke Times newspaper. I covered preps, high school football, basketball, baseball, track, softball. But during the summer, my job was to cover the local short track, which at the time was called New River Valley Speedway. It's now Motor Mile Speedway in Radford, Virginia. And I mean, Jamie, it was 3 or 4 laps into the first late model race. I fought it. I didn't want to do it. I wasn't interested really. But it was this unique, intoxicating mixture of sound, smell, energy, crowd. I got free Mountain Dew and free sheet cake. What else do you want? But I just fell in love with it. And I thought, it's my wife now, Lainey, and I've been married 23 years, but we were dating at the time. I'm like, hey, I think I should chase this thing. I think NASCAR is my fastest path to the big time. And I was just really enamored with the sport. And my first job out of college was at the Lynchburg News and Advance, covering Liberty University athletics and NASCAR. And then after I was in Lynchburg for about a year and got hired by NASCAR, and it just kind of took off from there.
So do you have a favorite auto racing movie?
Yes. Days of Thunder is my favorite auto racing movie. I love it. I've probably seen it 150 times. I can almost quote it verbatim. If you look at the tremendous cast, I mean, it's a who's who, with Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman and John C. Reilly and Robert Duvall. And I mean, it's star-studded. And so it's just awesome. I love it. And there are rumors that Tom Cruise might be considering a Days of Thunder remake based on the success of the Top Gun remake. And I don't know if that's true, but I hope it's true.
Well, I grew up around NASCAR in Michigan, 10 miles from Michigan International Speedway. And my father was on the fire crew. So we would go,
Awesome.
He was a fireman. And so we got to go to all of them. And this is back in the old days when there really weren't the suites, the luxury suites and the press boxes and stuff. And we would sit right behind pit row, being kind of employee kids. And we would sit right with drivers' wives and pit crew wives. And
How fun.
it was the good old days.
That's
it was
a
fun,
dream, man.
It was awesome. And we got to take one friend every race. So we were able to get one friend in for free. And so people were lining up trying to get down to.
You had a lot of new friends in June and July, which is usually, I think, when those races are, maybe June and August.
Yep. But Cale Yarborough, he was my guy. But
the Hardy's 28.
Yeah. And you talk about marketing. That was the first time that I realized, or thinking back, what marketing played in my mind, because I remember seeing a Hardee's for the first time. We were driving on a family vacation. I saw Hardee's and I begged my parents to take me in because I swore Cale Yarborough was going to be there.
You want to know who has that exact same story, Jamie? 7-time NASCAR champion Jimmy Johnson. He loved Cale Yarborough too. And the first time he saw a Hardee's, he swore he was going to walk in there and meet Cale. It's amazing.
I didn't know that, but yeah, that's the power of marketing on a little kid, but Hardee's got some money from my family, and I did get a placemat. There was like a placemat thing with Cale Yarborough's picture on. So I got that, but yeah, it's amazing how that marketing can work like that. So you've done more than just NASCAR. I mentioned you're so recognizable. You're everywhere, doing everything. It seems like. Is there a sport that you haven't done yet, or an event that you haven't done that you would like to do, like a bucket list item?
I'd like to do the Monaco Grand Prix, Formula One race. I have the amazing opportunity at ESPN now. Of course, we broadcast Formula One racing in the United States in a partnership with Sky Sports globally. And for all of the United States domestic races. ESPN sends SportsCenter. They send Marty and McGee, my show with my colleague Ryan McGee. And so we get the great opportunity to be there and interview the Christian Horners of the world and the Max Verstappens of the world and the Lewis Hamiltons of the world. And it's just really cool. And I'm telling you, ain't nothing like Formula One. It is a very different deal. And I've been asked before, what is the difference between, if you were to describe the difference between NASCAR and Formula One, here's my analogy, and I don't know if it's worth a damn or not, but this is what it is. It is comparing aircraft. So if NASCAR is a commercial airplane, a commercial jet, right? It is a marvel of technology. It gets off the ground and it flies you where you're going very efficiently, does the job, and it's cool. That's NASCAR. Whereas Formula One is a fighter jet. They're doing the same thing, but one is much more technologically advanced and has a much bigger budget than the other. And so that's sort of that's the only way I can really try to compare them, because even though they're both auto racing, they're not even remotely the same thing.
Is there a memorable event for you that stands out in NASCAR or any other event for that matter? Just something that's almost up there on the. Yeah, I know. My next question is going to be, which of your kids do you like better?
Right.
So which event has been the best or most memorable for you?
It is that kind of question, but for different reasons, I guess. When Dale Earnhardt Jr. won the Pepsi 400 in July of 2001, I maintain it's the most important moment in NASCAR history because it came on the heels of the other most memorable for me, which was when Dale Earnhardt died in turn 4 of the last lap of the 2001 Daytona 500 on February 18th, 2001. And I remember it all in Technicolor, both races, but there have been so many more. I mean, when Dale Jr. won the Daytona 500 in 2014, that was a wonderful thing to witness. And, seeing him come back after the concussions and be able to go out on his own terms without some doctor telling him you're done. He came back because he wanted to finish when he wanted to finish. And, you think about Rockingham, North Carolina in 2001, the second race of the season. NASCAR raced because Dale Jr. raced. He put the entire sport on his shoulders and carried it, because I can promise you, man, I was in the middle of it. Every single individual in the garage, whether it be NASCAR officials, team officials, other drivers, the entire sponsorship group, everybody looked right to Dale Jr. to decide if we were going to race. And he chose to race. So the sport raced on. And I'll never be able to articulate my admiration for him as a person. He's one of my great friends. But what he did in that moment, in an impossible situation emotionally, was I think it saved NASCAR. I mean, I think it did.
Well, we have tons of coaches or so many coaches and people that are in athletics that watch this show, and they understand a lot of team sports. Give us a sell job on NASCAR for those of us that maybe, or for those people that maybe don't know about NASCAR or the team aspect, or all you need is the fast car, or, well, you just need a great driver. Give us a little, 30,000 foot view of the teamwork involved, or what's involved with NASCAR.
You do have to have a really talented race driver first. That's the most important variable. It's like being a successful football team. You can have talent all over the field, but if you don't have a quarterback, you're not going to win. Same thing. Similarly, you can have a phenomenal quarterback, but if that quarterback doesn't have a great offensive line to protect him, you're not going to win. If the race driver doesn't have a great pit crew that gets him on and off of pit road with a full tank of gas, with 4 brand new tires, with adjustments to how the car is handling, and all of that in 10 seconds, you're not going to win. These are athletes that are on pit road. Most of them these days are former elite college athletes that just weren't quite elite enough to get drafted or get a free agent deal in whatever sport they were in. It's college football players, college basketball players, college baseball players, college wrestlers, on and on. So then there's the aspect that nobody knows unless you're inside baseball, and that is this. What is these days the most important variable in great quarterback play, Jamie? It is diagnosis at the line of scrimmage. That's what it is. For a race driver, the most important variable is, first of all, massive guts. We'll say that. A lot of fortitude. But you got to be able to tell the team what the car is handling like. You have to be able to break a corner down, a turn on a racetrack down in 4, 5, 6 different places, so that the team can make the adjustments necessary to improve the handling of the car so that you have an opportunity to win. I liken it to Bryce Young's at the line of scrimmage. He can see what the defense wants to do to him. He makes the adjustment and at the line of scrimmage, or tells his offensive coordinator when he gets to the sideline, this is what they're doing to us. Let's adjust it so we can go take advantage of their deficiencies. That's the best analogy I can give you, but it is damn sure a team sport.
Well, as you look at some of the greatest teams that you've covered or been around, and we're going to get to your book here in just a few minutes, but as you look at some of the greatest teams, what are some of the things that stand out? Are there some common threads among some of these great teams? Obviously, they have to have some talent, some level of talent.
You got to recruit really at a really high level. You got to bring in great players, but you also have to find those 3 stars that you develop into great players. That's another part of greatness in college football. It is, okay, Ben Boulware at Clemson University is a 3-star from down the road who's not fast enough. He's not big enough, but Brent Venables, Dabo Swinney, and that staff is going to develop him into a starter and a great football player. It is development. It is also, first of all, it's phenomenal leadership born from trust of action and trust of words. It is great culture and great energy that you walk around in every day. And you can't get any of that without trust. And how do you get trust, Jamie? Time. You have to know these young people on a personal level, because you don't treat everyone the same. You treat everyone fairly. And every single individual consumes information in a different way at a different rate of time, all of that. And all of those variables are in the pages of Sideline CEO from all of these championship coaches. But they also, at some point, almost invariably, have to manage some sort of crisis. Coaches don't sign up for crisis management. They just have to do it most of the time. Whether it's a schism between players, whether it is a lack of urgency, whether it is something far more dynamic than that. And some of the stories, I don't know if you've read the whole book yet, but some of the stories in that crisis management chapter stop time for me. And it's also, brother, the willingness to be very honest with yourself in self-evaluation, and the willingness to be malleable and evolve. Because if you don't evolve, you die. And all of that is part of it. And the great ones do all of that.
So you have your brand new book, hot off the presses, Sideline CEO, Leadership Principles from Championship Coaches. People can run out, get that everywhere that fine books are sold, as the podcasters say.
Please do. Jamie's an author. He understands.
I am an author. Don't have, one day maybe I'll write a good book, as my English teacher said once, but Sideline CEO, you interviewed so many championship coaches. As you interview these coaches, was there something that stood out to you that was a surprise to you? Was there something that you went into an interview and you really kind of were taken aback, or it was like, I never thought about that, or just a surprise that they would even say that?
I tried to maintain a completely open mind and open ears and a closed mouth. And one reason is I think that listening is one of the greatest gifts you can give another individual. And Tim Corbin, who is the baseball coach at Vanderbilt University, two-time College World Series champion, was so brilliant on the value of listening and how it truly does show someone else how deeply you care. And Coach was funny, Jamie. He's like, not to get too flowery here, but if you're listening, that means you're not thinking about what you're going to say next. It means you're taking in what that person is sharing and then reacting when they're done. And that's a beautiful gift, and it's rare these days. Because what is everything today? Look at me, let me take a selfie. Let me tell you everything I have to say. And so, that part to me was very interesting. But another thing, one of the stories in the book that really struck me was from Mack Brown, North Carolina's head football coach, who's like my dad. He's everybody's dad. And Coach Brown was talking about evolution. And he was talking about evolution by way of sharing with me when he had Vince Young at the University of Texas. And Vince Young was struggling. And he was not playing well. So Coach pulls him out of a game. And he said that Vince was sulking and all of the, the reaction to being pulled off the field, right? All of the demonstrative reactionary movements that a player would make. And so Coach goes over there and he's like, listen to me. You better be the best teammate you can be to Chance Mock. I forget the quarterback's name. You better be the best teammate you can be, and you better help us win this game. And then you're going to get a chance to show me next week during practice if you're the guy. Well, the next week of practice, not especially good. Warm-ups the next weekend against Texas Tech, he couldn't throw it in the ocean. So Coach was like, hey, this is over. It's just not going to work. Well, then Vince Young went out and threw for however many 100 yards, ran for however many 100 yards, and the rest was history. He became one of the greatest college football players of all time. And the lesson was this. The lesson was, in a previous life, before he had evolved into the person he was in that moment, he probably would have just benched him, not talked to him, and who knows what would have happened from there. So there's all of those kind of anecdotal little stories that are very relatable, especially to coaches and to educators. And I've used a lot of it as a parent, man. I've put a lot of this tutelage into my daily walk as a dad. So it's just been I hope that people are able to do that, envelop it into their daily walk, just as I have, because there really is a lot of great wisdom in the pages.
Well, you mentioned Vince Young was one of the greatest college football players of all time. You've got to say one of, because the greatest college football player of all time wrote the foreword of your book. Tim Tebow wrote the foreword for your book. When you talk about leadership, what an incredible, incredible leader. He talked in his foreword about leadership and how it a lot of times is about influence, but about this whole book is about leadership as well. Can you encapsulate in just kind of one or two statements what leadership is to you, and what, when you think of a leader, what is that?
I will steal from, I asked every single one of these 20 individuals in the book that question. And I will steal from the general thread that weaved through all of their answers. And that is, taking people with you, especially when they don't believe they're capable of doing it themselves. And it is done, again, through trust of action and trust of word. It's saying what you mean, what you believe, and following through on those words. And, you can read the book, my friends, but like Urban Meyer, for example, breaks trust down into 3 separate categories, which are really interesting. And the way that he really dives into those 3 different types of trust and the evolution of what leadership is. It used to be, I don't know how old you are, Jamie. I'm 47. Okay. I grew up in a time when our coach, our parents told us to do it, and we did it because we were told to do it. We didn't ask why, or we got backhanded. We got earholed. These days, young people want the why. So that kind of authoritarian approach to leadership doesn't really fly anymore. Now, there are certain variables and attributes of it that do. If Nick Saban or Kirby Smart or Dabo Swinney yells at a player, they're going to respect that through the trust they've earned from those players because of the time and the follow-through. It's all one big equation. And that was sort of what I wanted to drill down on in this book. We all hear about leadership all the time, but what is it? And there are many different variables involved in what it is, but bringing them with you is the ultimate. It's can you stand in front of 1 or 2 people or 1 or 2,000 people with an objective to achieve, and can you lead those people towards achieving that objective? Will they come with you? Because leadership is influence, not power. To quote Greg Sankey, the Southeastern Conference Commissioner, in the pages of the book.
Yeah, Sideline CEO, definitely worth checking out. All of our audience, coaches, athletes, administrators, educational leaders, it's something you're going to get something out of every, what was it? 20 coaches you interviewed?
Yeah. Nick Saban, Dabo Swinney, Mac Brown, Roy Williams, John Calipari, Tom Izzo, Patty Gasso, who just won her 7th national title with Oklahoma softball, Kim Mulkey, who just won her 4th national championship.
Who just got paid.
And deserves every single cent of it. If you look at what her program just did to like really, her and Dawn Staley. Now, Dawn Staley's not in the book. I did ask Dawn, and she's going to write her own leadership monster someday. So she politely declined. She's an amazing leader and an amazing coach. But you get the idea of these are a who's who have led many different types of individuals and teams at the highest level with tremendous pressure and not a lot of time, especially in today's college athletics, not a lot of time to be great. Mark Stoops, I think one of the greatest things that happened for Mark Stoops at the University of Kentucky is they gave him time. Frank Beamer, when he first started at Virginia, that was a different era, but when Coach Beamer started at Virginia Tech, they gave him time to build a bowl championship series stalwart and a national brand. A lot of coaches don't have that time anymore. You got to win now.
Well, not only do you have to win now, but you have to win now again and again and again, because how many championship coaches are getting fired 2 years after winning a conference title or 2 years after being in a –
Coach O had arguably the greatest college football team of all time in 2019. And we could argue that some people say 0-1 Miami. So the people have their opinions, and that's cool. But that 2019 LSU bunch with Burrow and them and Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson, Clyde, Edwards-Helaire, on and on. They were nasty. And Coach O was gone just a couple years later. And so – it is a win now and win often and win consistently business.
It sure is. Well, speaking of, you've mentioned elite athletes a few times and being on top of your game. I would be remiss if I didn't bring up one of the greatest sports moments in the history probably of the world. You winning, were you setting a world record in the cornhole throw?
Oh, Lord help us. One of the more controversial things that's ever happened in my career. So,
Well, because you stepped on the line.
Actually, the line wasn't the problem. The follow through of my hand over the line was the problem.
Okay.
Because, all right, the rules on the board that morning stated something to the effect of nothing can cross the line or whatnot, right?
Okay.
Well, we had an adjudicator there. We flew a guy in from London who wasn't cheap, just for the record, to confirm that our toss was legitimately a world record. All right. We had a review. He actually told all of us, forget the hand thing. You're fine. Just don't let your toe go across the line. My toe didn't go across the line. So anyway, long story short, I throw this bag. It was my the eighth bag I threw. I had done a feature for College Game Day that day on Jaden Daniels, LSU's quarterback. So I did the live portion of that feature, and there was still 20 minutes left in SEC Nation. And we had to make this throw in the 2 hours of SEC Nation. It was 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. Eastern time at the University of Georgia. Had to go in during that increment, or it just didn't matter. Well, I had been throwing the bags vertically because my boss, who had been trying this for months, said that was the best way. Well, I step up there, and I'm getting ready to throw one vertically, and we had these American Cornhole League guys there, these pros trying to break this record too. And one of them looked at me that was standing up, and he's like, why are you throwing a bag like that? I'm like, because my boss told me to. He goes, when you play cornhole, how you throw the bag? I said, like this. He goes, throw the bag like that. 2 throws later, thunk. I lost my mind, bro. Lost my mind. And then I gave what is now a famous speech at the SEC Network that I am so full of gratitude to have had a wonderful marriage to my beautiful wife for more than 20 years. We have 3 beautiful children whom we adore and learn from every single day. But there is no greater moment in my life than winning the Redneck Olympics, and I just achieved it. And so, yes, I don't think I hold that record anymore, though, Jamie. I think somebody hit 80 maybe or something.
Well, in the hearts of us ESPN fans and sports fans, you hold it,
dude.
But,
I mean, it was some guy, some Arkansas fan. He took to social media, like, I mean, he was like, this just should not count. I mean, that guy, God bless him, has a lot of time on his hands.
There are a lot of those people, especially if you're a golf fan.
Yeah,
you realize that you got all these people on their couches just itching to call someone or email someone or direct message someone about something. It's crazy, but yeah, amazing. Every time I go out and play cornhole in the backyard or at a family function, I think about that now, and I think me tossing this like 15 feet is nothing.
27 feet, I think, is the official distance.
Well, my family, the people I play with, aren't good enough for 27 feet. I don't think.
Good for you. Hey, 15's good too, man.
Hey, well, whatever it is, I can't keep track of that. I'm not very good with that distance stuff. But Marty Smith, definitely appreciate your time. For everyone out there, go out and buy Sideline CEO, brand new book. It will not be very long before that is a New York Times bestseller as well.
Hope so.
Just like your first book, right?
I was so grateful that the first one was acknowledged that way. And, in that one, I felt like the response would be, man, it's neat that you hung out with this person or met that person or learned from that person. But that was not the feedback at all. The feedback from Never Settle was, I desperately needed hope in my life, and you gave it to me. And what an amazing blessing. That thing's it's kind of taken on a life of its own. You know, John Gordon, you ever had John Gordon on your show?
Yeah. Yep.
John told me when I wrote that book, he goes, I'm telling you, man, just trust me. It's going to come out. It's going to kind of have a life of its. It's going to have a life. And then I promise you in like a year, it's going to have another life. It's going to have a life of its own.
Yeah.
And John's wrote 7,000 bestsellers. And so.
Well, I think he's written 2 since we've started this interview.
Yeah, I think so too.
I think,
that one he did with Damon West, the coffee bean thing. What an amazing lesson. I love that. If y'all haven't seen I think it's called The Coffee Bean or Be the Coffee Bean 1 with John and Damon West. You got to read it. It's great. And it takes 15 minutes to read it.
Yeah. And that's one of the great things about John's books are they're pretty simple, but they pack a punch, which is good, especially if you're dealing with student athletes, let's say, or people that don't like to read. I mean, why do you have to, like, there's some Simon Sinek, let's say. Simon Sinek or some of these other guys, they're brilliant. I love their books, but I'm like, they're way too complicated for me.
I wanted to achieve that with this book. I wanted it to be so easily digestible. I wanted it to be able to be consumed in chunks, big or small, whether you're a reader before bed and you're a 2-page guy or a 2-paragraph guy before you put the book away and fall asleep, or if you plow through them like Buzz Williams in one sitting, or you're at the airport. I wanted it to be something you could stop and come right back to. And I think with that sort of word of mouth approach, you know, that sort of conversational approach that I took to formatting it, I think we've achieved that.
I would agree. Definitely a book you need to go out and check out and get great stuff in there. And it's easy to digest. I agree with that. So Marty Smith, follow him on Twitter and Instagram at Marty Smith ESPN. And his book is Sideline CEO. We appreciate Marty. Keep up the good work. Keep putting out those great outfits, wearing those great outfits.
World class sea bass.
Keep being a character, keep having great insights, and love what you do. Appreciate it. For everybody out there, please share the show with someone that you think might be interested. Give it a little thumbs up, smash that like button, or, just tap it so you don't break your phone when you smash it. But otherwise, until next time, remember that success is a choice. What choice will you make today?